I've got the great pleasure of sitting next to the legend, winner of the Fellowship Award, Tim Schaffer. How are you doing?
I'm feeling really good right now.
I should hope so.
Yeah.
You've just won the Fellowship Award.
Yeah, I had to kill a lot of people to get that one.
I know, right? I mean, it's been like Kind Hearts and Coronets. You've probably never seen that film. Anyway, that's a terrible reference. So, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. I don't know really where to start with you, Tim. There's so many questions that I want to ask. Okay, I suppose I'll start off with, how does it feel to, you know, have such a long-standing career in games? Because there's a lot of people who made games in the past who kind of, you know, they sort of tail off and they sort of like disappear, but you've still constantly innovated and kept up with the times. Has that always been kind of your mission, or did you just never want to leave games?
I just never had any other ideas. No, I think one of the most important things is really just pursuing what you actually love, and that means to the detail of like what makes you honestly feel inspired. And so every game I've made, it's always been something that really got me excited, and you know, and that's sometimes leads you down a challenging path financially, because there's other things that other people are excited about right now that you could do and make a lot of money. And not that we're not going to make a lot of money. This new game is going to make a lot of money.
So you know.
But I think, you know, you do see people in this industry, there's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of people who just get exhausted because it's really hard and they work crazy hours and maybe their game doesn't sell and it's really grueling. And I think the secret is to just really keep doing what you love and do that part of it, and don't get pulled into some situation where you're like, why am I making this game? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, I mean, so I think kind of like one of the most interesting sort of pivotal points in recent years was, I remember reading about, you were saying that you'd gone to a lot of different kind of games publishers and, you know, were kind of pitching different sort of kind of more old school games, and they were kind of saying to you, nah, people don't like this stuff. They don't want these games anymore. It's all like high definition graphics or whatever. And then obviously you went out and, you know, you did your kind of Kickstarter project and then kind of just showed them all up. Really, by getting, you know, way above and beyond what you thought you were going to get. And surely, can you kind of see the, almost like the timeline and ramifications from what you did there that's now kind of seeped into games? Because now everyone's kind of like, actually, maybe we can do this ourselves, or there's a different way, a different process to making games that we're passionate about. Yeah,
I do think that is an important thing that's changed in the game industry, in that I think people don't see this monolithic direction for games, where we used to have a small number of gatekeepers who decided what was going to be popular every year or what they hoped would be popular, and they controlled vast sums of money, and so they were making these things happen. And now the barrier is lowered. Anyone can make a game, and you're seeing this explosion of creative ideas from the indie community that's even, I think, inspired a lot of AAA games to be more innovative, and people are taking risks. And the most important thing is, like, I don't think there's one kind of genre or one type of game that's better. I think it's just everyone likes their own thing, and it's not like adventure games are better than other types of games. They're better in certain ways, for sure.
Well,
but
yeah.
But it's mostly just that there are people who love them, and they should get them, and there's people who love other things, and they should get that. And it doesn't have to be everybody chasing after one big kind of herd mentality, chasing money every year.
I mean, you know, obviously you've been in the industry for a long time. What would you say is sort of like some of the biggest lessons you've learned? So there must be, you know, some people out there who are watching this on BAFTA who are passionate about games. Maybe they're just getting into games. What's your best advice to them? Come on, you've got years of experience. Let them avoid the pitfalls.
Yeah, I tried to say something when I was doing that, when I picked up that big heavy trophy, about how there's a lot of people coming into games and a lot of people making games. There's a lot of games being released all the time. It's really hard to stand out. And I feel like the way to stand out is not by imitating what you've seen before, but you know, even if you love the type of game and you wanted to make your own version of that, I feel like you really need to do that kind of game that only you could make. Like, everyone is a unique individual and everyone can make a personal statement with their games. And those are the games that will really, in the end, grab people's attention, is the games that are a unique personal statement of the person or group of people who made them. And
looking back throughout your whole career, this is kind of, I suppose, a little bit like picking favourite children, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway. What would you say is kind of...
My daughter's my favourite.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Kind of awkward. Sorry.
I only have one kid.
Oh, no. But what would you say is kind of, is there one game that you look back on so fondly and it's kind of the one you have like the most kind of nostalgia and love for? Is there one?
I mean, they all have a different sort of story. That, you know, the early days of working on Monkey Island with Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman, it was like it's just, when I see scenes from them, I remember like sometimes painting a pixel, like, oh, I remember that. I remember how it smelled at Skywalker Ranch and making that. And those are a lot of nostalgia, but also it's a fun time in the industry when it was just just us. There was no internet. There was no Reddit board about our game. You know,
You're not going to get distracted. You're going to stay very focused because you can't go online.
and you're just making a game that you like, and you like, yeah, you would stay very focused, exactly. And so I had to have nostalgia for that. But obviously, we love Psychonauts because we're making a sequel to it, and that world and that character are really appealing. Brutal Legend was really personal because of my love of heavy metal and those worlds and the fantasy worlds inspired by it. And they're all different. And like Connect Party, a game that very few people bought and played, was one of the things I'm most proud of, because when you see it, it's a Connect game, and you can watch like 2-year-olds playing it with their grandparents, and everyone's hooting and hollering and yelling. Because a lot of times you make an adventure game, even a funny adventure game, people enjoy it like this. They don't, like a slight chuckle maybe to themselves, and you don't, but to make a game that people are laughing and screaming and jumping up and down the air is really rewarding.
What would you say is kind of the biggest differences, aside from not having internet, between making games back in day and kind of making them now? How's the industry changed in those years?
Well, for the better in that it's a little harder to be creative. Not harder to be creative, but you almost got a lot of uniqueness for free in the old days if you did anything that wasn't high fantasy or science fiction. Like if you did anything outside of that, anything based on Mexican folklore or bikers, or like people just were they weren't covering certain topics in games very much. And so when we made Psychonauts, it was like Black Velvet. Let's have a whole level, but no one's done that yet. And it was, I don't think it was easy to have those ideas, but there was a lot of open space. And I feel like after the indie game boom, people have covered a lot more topics. There's a lot more ground that people can just, everyone realized they can make a game about anything, any topic, And so when we were coming up with ideas for the sequel, we have to really dig deep, because it's like, let's make a game about a whole world of paper. And like, oh, that Tearaway game did that. Rex. And so there's just a lot of, basically there's more creative games out there. And so you really have to find those new spaces if you want to keep surprising people.
Oh, well, and obviously the list of nominees this year was like huge and, really, really varied. Were there any kind of titles that you played and you enjoyed, or that you were quite passionate about from this year's BAFTAs?
I mean, I all those games that, I loved Night in the Woods. The writing in Night in the Woods was really unique.
So your game. So your game.
It was really pretty and charming.
Yeah.
And Edith Finch was also just a really cool way of telling a story, and I was really captivated by that and surprised. I just like to be surprised by games, Yeah. And Hellblade had it had a really just powerful like audio presence, and just a very unique, like people have not told that exact kind of game in that way before. And so there are a lot. Did you notice the audio was kind of mimicking Hellblade the whole night? Yeah. It'd be like best audio. I felt like I was playing Hellblade all night long.
Well, if it was saying anything else, that's when you need to be slightly concerned. If it was just best audio, then you're probably
best
fine.
audio, never going to make it. You can't do it yourself.
Then that's a reason to be concerned. But look, Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Huge congratulations on the Fellowship Award. And hopefully we'll see you again next year at BAFTA.
Yeah, for my second lifetime
award. Yes, you get 2.